Hi, and welcome to Conversation for the Animals. I am Lisa Tynan with Houston Pet Set, and I am joined today. This is like the greatest day of my life. By the one and only Lisa Hernandez.
Hello.
For those who have not been following our careers, because who would, we go back to previous employers.
We go way back.
And this has been like a dream of ours, is to do a podcast together.
Really? Which are we?
We're on all cameras.
Hello. Which is amazing all in itself.
I know.
Just multiple cams.
I know. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I think no time is better than the present when everything is going so well for animal welfare, right?
Oh my goodness.
So really today I think we have a unique opportunity to talk about animal welfare from two very different perspectives, because you are, in addition to being on the news,
yes,
you are also a crazy dog lady.
I'm a crazy dog lady, everyone.
Yes.
Crazy.
And that's not a secret. Like, this is not
everyone knows that I am,
right.
I'm the girl.
Fully out of control with dogs. But you have this, is that insulting? No.
I'd have it no other way.
I know. So you have this really unique perspective of being in it, in the trenches.
I really love it, caring about it.
And then having to report on it. And I have this feeling, obviously don't know from experience, but I have this feeling there's some dissonance there.
Yeah.
Because it always feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, when people are seeing these tragic news stories about animals or hearing about the overcrowded animal shelters that are literally on the news, as we're recording this, that people say, "Oh, I had no idea."
Yes.
And you're like, "Well, how?
I know.
How don't you know?"
I know.
So in addition to talking about that, I also want to talk a little bit about how you got into the world, because if people don't follow you on your social media page, it's 99%.
It's almost
dog
100%.
rescue.
Sometimes my kids make it in there, but it's typically dogs.
Right.
It's dogs. My husband never makes. He's always like, "Can I get a picture? Shout out?" And no. It's all about dogs.
He has his own career. He can take care of himself.
Exactly right.
This is about you. We're talking about you today. So, and I do full transparency. Yes. Lisa Hernandez has been involved with Houston Pet Set in the past. You are a fabulous partner and mouthpiece for us.
No,
sometimes.
I'm always honored to get a call from one of the twins about, can you help in any way? I wish we didn't need the help, but I'm always glad to spread the message.
And if someone is just tuning in, I am obviously not Tina or Tama. I'm filling in for them today.
Just as fabulous as Lisa Tynan.
Thanks. I want to start with how you got into this world.
Oh my goodness. I grew up loving animals. I always brought strays home. I am from Southern California, where we have our problems with strays, but we have tougher animal welfare legislation on the books in SoCal, in California. So we didn't. I was an anchor and reporter in LA, weekend anchor and weekday reporter 3 days a week. And I really wasn't into the animal welfare scene there because it was pretty heavily covered. You didn't have. There were pockets of Los Angeles County and surrounding counties that would have stray issues, but typically, there was more funding for animal services in those jurisdictions, in those municipalities, than what I've encountered here. When I moved to Houston to take a job in 2011, moved here, was in corporate housing in the Galleria. Then I worked in-house on Allen Parkway. I didn't go in the field. I was in-house anchoring. And I'm ashamed to say, I lived in a bubble. I was just in a bubble. I had no idea the stray situation is what it is. I had no clue until Mario Gomez, the lovely Mario Gomez, retired.
Shout out to Mario,
who did all of the SPCA Pet of the Weeks that were worked hand in hand with KPRC2, where I used to work. And when he left, they said, "Hey, Lisa, do you want to do this?" And I thought, I have 2 rescues. Sure. Brought them with me from Cali. Let's do it. And that's how I met Lisa. And then you really opened my eyes to listen, sister. I mean, this is the Houston SPCA where you were working at the time, and you just kind of pulled back the curtain for me. And SPCA was run well and was so clean and well kept. And but I had no idea how bad strays had it on the street. What they were living with was completely. Had no idea about heartworm disease.
Oh yeah.
The chaining, the tethering of animals in these awful summers and cold winters and just
these days we get freezes
all
now.
of it, right? So until I met you, I didn't really have a clue.
Then I should probably apologize
No.
to Joel because I didn't know you only had 2 dogs when we met.
I only had 2 and his retriever and my 2 little mutts from California.
My bad.
No. Joel's a big dog lover too.
Okay, good.
He's become more so. My husband, by the way, Joel Blank. Hi, babe. He is. We open our doors to dogs all the time.
So at what point did you start fostering in all of this? Because was that something where you were like, you know what, I see the problem, I want to foster, or was it sort of like you fell backwards into, oops, I accidentally picked this dog up?
Yes, that's pretty much how it happened.
Okay.
It didn't happen until in the weeks after Harvey.
Okay.
My first ever hurricane experience.
Wow.
My former employer at KPRC2, our station flooded during
remember
Harvey.
that.
Remember that? So we went off the air for a few hours. The contingency plan was always to lease space out at U of H in 3rd Ward in their in Houston Public Media. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Forgive me. And leasing their studio to continue our broadcasting of Harvey. So we moved. Our engineers, our incredible engineers across the street, helped us move and got us in place to continue our broadcasting in the middle of Harvey and after Harvey. And it was in the days and weeks after Harvey. We ended up being at that location for 18 months.
Yeah.
So driving in to U of H at 3 in the morning. And when I would leave at noon, I would go down. We lived in Midtown at the time. We live in Sugar Land now, but at the time we were in Midtown. So I would just drive down Elgin to get home. And I was like, oh my goodness, the stray dog situation. Stray dogs everywhere. My bubble went, because I was living in the bubble, and I didn't realize that just across the way were a ton of strays and people who were also had their dogs permanently tethered or chained outside too.
And I would get text messages. I have a dog in my car. No, but honestly, the thing that always sort of struck me is that somehow that morphed from you taking a couple animals in and being struck to being somebody that people message and text and Facebook message constantly for help. And I'm assuming that's because you are considered a public figure, but also because you have a heart of gold.
Oh, you're kind.
And you help people. But does that I don't want to say weigh on you because obviously it's heartbreaking, but how is that for you to have people constantly coming to you?
First of all, I'm honored that they think I'm someone that they can make a plea to, and maybe this girl can get the wheels turning and help me out with. You get private messages all the time. There's a dog being abused over here. There's a dog that's been chained out in the heat for 3 days and it's not moving. You get those all the time, and you do with them what you can. You notify authorities.
Right.
And goodness gracious, I just think about who else is inundated with messages for help. Right. Because you think about now we have some protection with the recent legislation that was passed in terms of keeping dogs tethered outside or chained outside. And now we can't chain them and what have you, which is wonderful. But you also think about, okay, how can we enforce that? How is our law enforcement able to enforce that? Right. And I don't think they don't want to enforce it, but they also have a priority list, right? And unfortunately, animals are going to not be at that top, right? There's so much going on in different jurisdictions that they have to handle, calls coming in left and right. Right. So you put out the pleas to who you can, and you just I say little prayers like, oh gosh, I hope this animal gets help. And sometimes I've done drive-bys myself. Not I won't tell my husband like I'm going to go check this out.
Just going to make sure.
I've done that before, and it's a tough situation, and it's a heartbreaking one, and you wish you could save every single animal that you come across.
Right. And then you're experiencing all of that on a personal level. Yeah. And then at the same time going on air and reporting on the situation. I think people don't realize necessarily how bad the situation is here in Houston. Like you said, if they're in that bubble. Right. And because Houston is so big, like monstrously big, you can spend 90% of your time in one part of town or one little area and just not realize how bad the problem is. So you get to see it firsthand and then tell the world about it. Do you feel like people are getting it, that they're getting the message of how dire the situation is?
I don't think so. I think they'll hear a story of this animal was found abused, or there's. I was just talking to Julie over at the Houston SPCA, and she contacts me with story ideas all the time. Sorry, I'm hitting the microphone. And she said, "Gosh, we have a lot of surveillance videos of animals being abused.
I have seen those.
There's an uptick." Yeah. And she goes, "I don't know if I should submit them to you guys, if that's even content you want to put out there, because it's very upsetting.
It is,
but it also can spur people to take action." What was your original question? I start thinking about the videos and then I go to another place.
It sends you off, but people, there's a line between showing the videos and showing people how bad the problem is, but also not like ruining somebody's entire life or day.
I know.
Because there's an element of wanting to protect people from the horrors of it.
Right.
You know, I know you have to say things like warning that what we're about to show is disturbing.
Right.
But it does sort of feel like those of us, which includes you, who are working every day on the front lines in the field, it almost feels like the story that we're seeing isn't always the story that's being told. Or maybe it's being told, but in a sort of a gentler way.
Yes.
Which maybe that isn't doing as much good as it should.
Right. Absolutely. And we are going off of the information that a PIO is going to give us as to what's going on in the video, who's been apprehended or not. And I know, and what you will find is people will be infuriated by it. And they will message you this,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all kinds of words all over, right? Which we totally understand.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to him? And the sad reality is, I don't know. I don't think that the punishment typically fits the crime when it comes to abuses against animals. I mean, our companion animals aren't even considered sentient beings.
Yeah.
In the state
welcome
of Texas.
to Texas.
I know. Welcome to Texas. So it's tough to say, here's this video, and they want to know, well, was this person arrested? Clearly, he's guilty of torturing this animal, and you can't even give them that, which I know they want. I'll never forget, there was a dog in the middle of one of the summers we had, which our summers are notoriously brutal, as we know, and a dog had collapsed on a chain. And when I think it was Precinct 5. I forget who walked up on the house. I think it was the Acres Homes area.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I probably have my precincts wrong, but the officer walked up, and the dog owner was washing his car, and the dog had perished at the end of this chain in the brutal heat. And he said, sir, your dog is on the ground over there. And someone got a picture of the animal from a neighboring balcony, and that went all over, and people were just, what happened? And I think the dog owner got death threats. Like and I understand people's just being livid about that. But, the punishment, I think it was still a misdemeanor. And so telling that to the public after showing them the story, like, what do you mean that's a misdemeanor?
Right.
And there's no database that I know of, at least, where if you have something on the books where you've hurt an animal, whether or not it was intentional, you can still go pick up another dog tomorrow.
Right.
At any municipality, any county, city, private shelter. So that's also a bit disheartening, only because if you have a track record of animals dying on your watch, should you really be allowed to bring another one into the home?
And you mentioned the fact that people reach out and contact you and say, do something about this. Yeah. And I've sort of always wondered, does it work? Does it help? If somebody, because we get, we as an animal welfare organization, we are not a rescue. We don't take animals in, but we have people constantly messaging us saying, take this to the news. And we have, thank goodness, we have wonderful relationships with reporters and anchors like you who will put the story out. But does it work? Does simply making the world aware of it actually have the intended consequence that I think that people are looking for?
I think what they're looking for is change. So I don't know if it's getting there. I think that gosh, and I'm always the one in the newsroom, and I know my manager's looking like, oh, Lord, here she comes. She's going to pitch another animal story. And I go, this is happening, and it honestly, it depends on the news of the day. Yeah. What else is breaking, which sounds terrible.
I know.
To someone not in the news, they're going, are you kidding me right now? Yeah. This isn't serious enough for you to put on, but it is all dependent upon what else is filling our newscast that day. If something like Highland Park happens, everything goes out the window, and it's just nonstop coverage of whatever that is. So it just depends on the content of the day, which is awful. Maybe you can pick up the story the next day. Sure. But I think for me anyway, as an animal lover, if I'm a viewer, I want to know, okay, so this is happening. What are our leaders doing about this? Right. And I don't think we ever get around to that. I don't think there have been a number of dog attacks. And I mean, there's unfortunately, tragically, there are dog attacks all over the place over the years that I've been here. And, you'll rush to cover that. But I'll say, well, can we take it a step further and figure out, well, Was 311 ever called? Do we have the amount of animal control officers on the street to even answer a 311 call of roaming packs of dogs?
Yeah.
Do mothers and fathers feel safe with their kids walking to the bus stop in the morning? They're just things I don't know if we necessarily chase down what can be done on a preventative measure way to prevent that attack, or who was called, and do we even have the enforcement necessary?
It feels almost like and this is not the fault of really anybody, because like you said, there are stories, there are time limits on how much time you can spend on something that you have to follow. But it sort of feels like the nugget is, here's what happened, here's who was affected.
Yeah.
And then it stops.
And then we switch on to the next story.
And it also feels like a lot of what we're covering, we just talking about the free adoptions that are going on because shelters are full, and the administrators from city and county shelters will get up and say, we're full, please come adopt. But there's more to the story, which is we're full because owners don't have access to veterinary care and they can't get their dogs spayed or neutered, or they're getting evicted because they have one too many. There's more to the story.
More to the story.
And and now I'm going to get on a soapbox, but it almost feels like what ends up happening as a result of how it's presented and how it's portrayed is that the pet owners are demonized because the only part of the story we hear is there's an influx of dog surrenders or cat surrenders at the shelter. And that's all we know about. We don't know why they're coming in. We don't know, you see those, of course, I'm one of those people who follows the dodo. And I see all these unbelievably heart-wrenching stories about people who surrender their pets with all of their toys and a photo album of the happy life this animal has. But what we see and what we are presented as the consumers of news is there are too many dogs at the shelter. Come adopt and we'll give it to you for free. And that's where the story sort of ends. So I'm wondering how people, average Houstonian or someone in animal welfare can help tell that story better. That people are suffering too, that it's not just the animals.
No, and it's often connected. Anytime I've done block walking to say, hey, do you need assistance with your animals? Or you always find out the human connection. They're doing the best that they can most times, in my experience. Dog owners that I would otherwise probably be judgmental of, walk up and you talk and you listen about their life experience and what they're going through. Maybe they just lost a job. Maybe their dog does need vet care, but they don't have $400 to drop right now. So they're going, if you can help me, absolutely. I love that dog, you know? So it's awful that that's the side that you do hear, we have all these owner surrenders. I used to be that girl who's going to surrender their dog? I would never. And then you listen to stories I've been out of work for 3 months. I can't even afford, in their mind, this is, and maybe it is the best thing for the animal. And I have, after seeing how many people will just abandon a dog in a parking lot, God bless you for at least having the heart to walk them into a shelter and say, hey, I can't do it. Can you at least find the dog or cat a home? You know?
And there's an added layer to that, which is, you have to make the heartbreaking decision to do it. And then the fear of judgment by the people who are taking the animal. And I will say, having worked in these shelters, most of these people are consummate professionals. And there is not that a judgment exchange there, fortunately. But that isn't always the case. And, media these days does also include social media. And that is a minefield. I honestly, if it's part of my job as a human person aside from my job, I really don't like to be on Facebook. It is an upsetting place in animal welfare because of course most of the people I know are posting videos and pictures of animals. And I see this almost like a cycle of, there's something bad happening and people are going to the news and the news does a story and then people share the news story and then it feeds on itself in this really weird cannibalistic rage. And then what you end up with is a mob, an angry mob who cannot be convinced of anything ever. And I just don't know how we fix that.
It's an excellent question. It's just this anger. Over what started as let's get the word out about this. And then it kind of turns into, some people turn on each other. Well, it's social. I mean,
oh boy.
Yeah.
It's dangerous out there on the social
on
webs.
the social.
I wish there was a way, because I will say this for social media. A lot of good actually does happen on there. The lost and found pages, people get reunited with their pets. I lured a stray in with Kane's chicken a year and a half ago, who was wandering the streets. And when I posted her on Nextdoor, I had so many people who said, we have been trying to catch that dog for weeks. Gosh. If you need any help. And I found her a home before I'd even taken her to the vet.
Wow.
So yay. There are some benefits of having this really social, interconnected thing where we can all communicate with each other.
Right.
But sometimes it feels like, the positive is outweighed by rage, dare I say? And I don't know if there's I don't know that someone can get on a camera and say, please stop yelling at each other. I know. Because honestly, you get ratings, right? You get more post clicks.
Yeah.
Which is
that is a measurement.
It's part of the business. But I have this nagging feeling that part of what needs to change, in addition to spay and neuter and in addition to microchipping, which we're now and taking animals off of chains and all that, there's an educational element that's missing. And we have this platform. We have this fabulous social media and traditional media platform where we can educate people about pet care, but also about what life is like for a person in the world who maybe can't afford all the things that they want. And my plea, if any one of her bosses are listening, let Lisa do stories on this, because I think people want to feel compassion.
Yes.
I think they want to have the opportunity to feel love and compassion, but they don't see where they can feel that because there's just so much wrong and negative and sad that
it's defeating.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
You can't get past it.
I know. And I love that people want to help, but I think you're right. I think it has to come at them at a more palatable way.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to say what the word is. It's rescue something that starts with a P, where people really focus on these gory photos.
Oh.
And it's like they feed off of that, where they see this and they reshare it. And I worked in animal welfare for a decade.
You've seen it all.
I've seen it in person. I don't want to open up my Instagram feed and scroll past and see some horribly maimed animal. And I think, like what we talked about before, people, you want to show them that it's happening.
Yeah. And I understand they're fundraising.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
But it is hard to look at.
And it's hard to look at, and it's hard to then feel inspired because then you're just like, oh,
I know.
It was horrible.
My mother is a big dog person back home in SoCal, and she'll call me, I have a husky in my front yard today. I'm going to try him. Great. Mama's retired, so she's but I will send her things like, she's like, I'm not even going to open that. I don't know what that is. I'm like, no, it's nothing horrific, but it's just
the Sarah McLachlan starts playing in the background.
There's no Sarah. No,
okay.
She's banned from our house. I can't watch this.
I can't.
I appreciate ASPCA and the fundraising, but those images. Oh, I know, but I guess they're there they serve a purpose.
It works. It works for some people. Maybe not for me. I may not be that target audience. Right. But it works, and it spurs. And if it gets somebody to donate, or if it gets somebody to foster, then great. But I like to think that somewhere along the way, we can find a way to educate people from a place of understanding and compassion so that the rescue world doesn't become quite so ragey.
But I feel sometimes I think
we're justified. There's a lot wrong out there for us to be ragey.
Oh, man. She and I have had many private conversations about what's going on in Houston and Greater Houston.
Sad.
It's horrifying out there what's happening with animals. I have to give a shout out to Gloria Centeno and Barrio Dogs, because you talk about education.
Yes, and she is one of our partners. Yes, we love her.
It was amazing. And I actually interviewed her when my first year here, because I think I contacted her. I thought, this is her community. East End is very much the community where I grew up in Southern California. Very similar demographic. So I was attracted to that. I'm like, what are you doing out there? She's like, I'm going door to door. I'm bilingual. We go in English and Spanish, and we talk to people about just if it's part of the culture that dogs aren't viewed as a member of the family. We're going to say, hey, this is how you care for them. This is what they need,
Right.
in not a judgmental way.
No.
And she's wonderful.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
so kind, and she just has a way with people. But I kind of shadowed her, and I didn't realize she has a program where she takes one of the rescue dogs, and they're not a traditional rescue. They're more preventative, education-wise, a nonprofit. But they go into the local elementary school, and they sit with kids.
Yeah.
Where it starts.
Yes.
Who then maybe go home to their parents and say, no, this is what I learned today about what the dog needs. And maybe the dog shouldn't be outside 24/7. And, I just think things like that might not seem like a big deal to some folks. It's everything.
It's huge. Well, we used to go into the critter camp and see these children who they are a blank canvas in terms of animal welfare and animal care, and having the opportunity to experience animals and learn about them, which I haven't been in elementary school in a really long time. I don't remember ever learning about compassionate animal care growing up. I mean, I was fortunate to grow up with pets, and, we had a zoo nearby, and I always loved animals, but I don't ever remember learning about it outside of my home.
Same.
And so if that's the only place that children are having this sort of education, and their parents maybe haven't had the opportunity either, then programs that go into schools, that go into neighborhoods, that go door to door and meet people where they're at, I think could make just an absolute monster difference in how the animals are treated here. Because while things are sad, they are trending hopefully in the right direction. The groups, Houston Pet Set, that we grant to, who are on the street every day picking up animals and doing all this amazing work. Thank goodness for them.
Thank the Lord.
I feel like so much of what we are able to do feels like a Band-Aid until we address those root causes.
100%.
It's like education and spay neuter and microchip and affordable vet care and all of these things. If we can just figure out how to tell people about them.
Yes.
In an educational, constructive way, without demonizing, it feels like we could make a really big difference.
That's the key, without demonizing. Because when you talk to folks and you realize their intent is not to harm them, like, well, I let my dog roam. She likes to roam. She's intact. She's in heat. Stuff's going to happen. And then you have litter after litter. So when you talk about people educating, I think of Dr. Crum. God bless Dr. Crum. She opened a clinic on OST, right?
Yes. Laurel's House and Safe Haven.
Safe Haven. So shout out to them. And Anna Barbosa, who with K911 Rescue. I thought of, do you remember Gus, the dog who was found with the embedded collar?
I remember
with the
good
massive
old Gus.
Swollen head. That was her rescue that pretty much spearheaded his recovery with the help of A&M, and then brought him back to Houston. Anyway, oh gosh, Sandy Rockmore. I have so many stories. I'm going to bore everyone. But Sandy Rockmore wrote a book, and she is a good friend of mine, and she knows Anna well, and they kind of got together and wrote this book about Gus.
Fabulous.
And put it into some elementary schools. So that helps with education,
I didn't know Gus had a book.
Gus has a book. And I got a signed copy from my eldest daughter.
Gosh, what a celebrity.
I said, Taylor, you're reading every day we're reading.
Yes, we're going to sit down. I just have to say, it warms my heart that you know all of these people.
I have
and that
so
you
many
go
stories,
out of
and
your
I wish
way.
that I was coherent. I've been up since 2 a.m. I'm sorry. It's been a long.
If you hadn't said
makeup's
anything,
really old.
Nobody would have known.
And I'm really old.
You could have just played it off. Nobody would have known.
Sorry,
but
it make more sense at 5 a.m.
But the fact of the matter is, I think people see somebody like you and they're like, "What does she know?" But legit, you are on your hands and knees picking up dogs.
I have
out
done
of the gutter.
that. Yes, I have done that.
Yeah,
I have done that. I've been. I've helped trap a dog in Pearland. That guy. I mean, I've had dogs poop in the back of my SUV at least half a dozen times, which is an interesting party to get all that out. And you're just driving what's that smell?
You got to get the weather tech.
This dog that I just collected from the shelter, who I'm going to hold on to for a couple. Oh, he just pooped all over my SUV.
And there's nothing I can do about it.
And I'm on 59, bumper to bumper traffic. Amazing.
Just roll the windows down a smidge.
I don't know, because that sucker's going to jump out the car.
Okay.
I mean, I don't trust. I love you, shelter dogs, but I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Because you want out.
Right out the car.
They're so quick to get in your car, they don't stop to relieve themselves. They're like, no, lady, just get me.
And then they
get out of here. So I keep the windows up, the AC's blowing. We're just all going to smell like poop.
That's why I have the weather tech.
All
the stuff in my car because I just got a new car. I haven't put a dog in this one yet, but if I do, it's going in the back on the rubberized plastic stuff because that does not come out.
It does not. It stays with you for a while.
I also feel like if I went through my phone, I have pictures of you, selfies with a dog behind you, at least 3.
When I was at KPRC2, this angel right here, I would be on the way, 9 a.m. on like a Thursday. Lisa, it's Lisa. Listen, I just picked up a dog on Elgin. I'm bringing her to you.
It's coming here.
She's like, okay, psycho,
I guess.
bring her here. That was me. I'd be the crazy lady, like rain or whatever, in my anchor clothes with my crazy makeup, because this is studio makeup, so it looks crazy in real life. You're looking at me like you're nuts. Get out of the car and chase a dog down. I'd be the girl in the middle like this. Come here. And the cars are like trying to go around, like laying on the horn, like, I'm trying to save a dog, pal.
Do you know who I am? No, you would never.
I would never.
You would never.
Because the answer would be no. We don't know you.
Who are you? You're in the middle of the road. Is who you are.
And I would call Lisa Tynan, and you would say, okay, just bring her.
Just bring it. No, but honestly, truthfully though, I do feel like people so often, and actually we talked about this in the last episode. So often people feel helpless, and they say, the number one. I feel like if I did one of those like word puzzle thingies that show like the most commonly used phrases, it would be somebody do something.
Yes,
and that somebody. People need to feel empowered that it doesn't, you don't have to be an expert animal handler to go get some chicken nuggets and lure a dog into your backyard and then call somebody who can come help. Or, put food and water out for a cat until somebody can come. Don't do that regularly, because then you're going to end up with feral cats. They will be there forever. But you can do something. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. Even if you are in 6-inch pumps and a bodycon dress.
No, I don't wear any of that. I'm post baby, okay? That's not in my closet anymore.
I'm sorry. Those shoes have really big heels.
No, but I think you're right. People need to feel like this. Even if you might think it means nothing to do XYZ, just any amount of help, whether it's just coaxing a dog or cat off the street, and if you have a crate. And then I don't think folks know, okay, at that point, Lisa, then what do I do? Then who do I call?
Because usually the next step is posting it on their personal Facebook page and saying, does anybody know what I should do?
Right.
So should I put on my educational hat? I mean,
please.
Really. So Houston Pet Set, I will say right off the bat, we have a website that we use, basically, that we have gathered resources, local veterinary clinics and other animal rescues and welfare groups that can take animals in, and it's searchable by zip code, and it's giveourpetsaHand.org, GOPAH.org. That's where we send people to go.
Okay.
Because really what we're seeing a lot of right now is people saying, I found this mama cat and kittens, all of the shelters are full. I don't want to take her in there to get euthanized. And while I understand where they're coming from, I mean, sometimes that is the only option, because the rescues are full too.
Yes, that's a huge point.
Right.
Because I think people feel like that's the worst fate for an animal.
And it honestly,
And it sounds so...
I know. We've had so many conversations.
I know. I know.
But it isn't, there are times where that isn't the outcome that should happen.
Right.
A litter of socialized kittens.
Right.
Just because you don't have space should not be euthanized.
Exactly.
But if there are animals who have been just absolutely ravaged by the street, who are sick, who are aggressive, who can't be handled. Feral cats sort of fall in that category. True feral cats. I mean, there are stray cats and there are feral cats. Sometimes it is the kinder outcome. And Houston Pet Set makes no, secret of the fact that we believe humane euthanasia should be an outcome for some animals. The problem becomes when the only reason they're being euthanized is for space.
Yes.
And that's where the rescues and the shelters and everybody need to get on the same page and figure out an alternative that isn't just warehousing.
Right. Amen.
Because we don't just want them sitting in a kennel.
And we don't want to have to close intake.
Right.
And that's been the case with, I don't recall a time when public shelters, the city shelters and the county shelters said, sorry, we're not taking any dogs.
And they can't. And it's so easy to just say, how dare you just open back up again? But if there's nowhere to put the animals, there's nowhere to put the animals. And if the result is just mass euthanasia, the people who work at those organizations don't want to do that. They are human beings. So it's this vicious, horrible cycle of no space, people finding more animals, and it's just, we're stuck in it. But we're going to get out of it. We're going to get out of it. And when people find pets and they don't know what to do with them, consider a shelter. if there is no other alternative. But if you are adamant, foster.
Yeah.
If you can foster, all you need is a bathroom.
It's true.
How many fosters? What's your max of fosters that you've had at one time? Or I should say animals, because you end up failing and adopting.
Is my HOA listening, or what are we talking about here?
Blink the number of animals that you've had.
I have temporarily, my home had 7.
Okay, so that's like
I see my husband's face right now, like.
Ugh,
God bless him.
That's a lot of animals.
It's a lot. It was
with
too much
2
for
babies.
us with 2 youngins. Yes, and they have never known a home without dogs and chaos. God bless my girls.
Yeah.
But no, it was too much. We took on more than we should have.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just feel, well, where else am I going to put this dog? Yeah. Where am I going to put this sweet dog? I'm going to kick him out?
We're going to spay and neuter the problem away. That's what we're going to do.
That's what we need, preventative measures.
Yeah, and affordable veterinary care. We're going to make our laundry list, our list of demands.
Can we just win the Powerball? And then hire our own vets, like drive around all of Southeast, the entire state.
I don't play the lottery, so I don't know how I'm going to win it, but somebody should do
Someone should do it. Is there a pool we can join?
Ooh, there's an idea.
Playing?
We're going to get all the rescues together. Collaboration is so important, and if that means we're all putting in a lottery pool, then that's what we'll do, and that's what'll work.
My goodness.
We accidentally talked for like twice as long as we had planned.
Oh my gosh.
Look at us. So that we knew this was going to happen, though.
Chatty Cathy.
I know. This has been Conversations for the Animals, the Lisa and Lisa podcast show. This was everything I had hoped and dreamed that it would be.
We had breakfast at First Watch over on 90 in Sugarland saying we need to do
we need a
podcast.
podcast.
We need a podcast.
So this is the actual realization of like 2 years of dreaming.
Yes.
And aside from the fact that like I adore you, you have such a wonderful insight into this world that not a lot of us have, because you get this really big bird's eye view of what's going on. And I think the more we can listen to people who have the lived experience but are telling us what the problem is and how we can fix it, let's actually pay attention and listen and do something about it.
Yes, indeed. Can I give a shout out to the rescuers?
Yes.
I just want to say to everyone out there who rescues, and Huts for Mutts, y'all got me started post-Harvey with touring Third Ward and helping out, going block walking and helping folks out with their dogs. But to everyone who does, even if it's the tiniest thing in your mind, thank you for what you do. I know the level of exhaustion is through the roof right now, and people who do this every day on top of their full work week and families and spouses and cleaning the house, whatever else, they still go out and they save lives. So I appreciate you. And I know that it's hell right now, because it seems like we can't even scratch the surface with what we're doing.
But we are doing it.
We are.
And we're not going to stop doing it.
I'm grateful to those who do it like full time. You guys are my heroes. So
No, you.
You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much, Miss Lisa Hernandez.
Thank you for tolerating me for a full 37 minutes. I appreciate it.
It's fine.
I thought it was 2 hours. Oh my God.
This has been Conversations for the Animals with Houston Pet Set. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Have a good one, guys.